Thank you so much for your interest in pursuing further into this conversation and this journey. As I mentioned, this is video number 1. In this video, I'm going to share with you exactly why it is that I shouldn't even be here in front of you, talking to you, sharing with you, or even have a story to share. You see, before I was born, my mom came to this country and experienced enormous challenges. She was homeless, she was in an abusive relationship, she unexpectedly became pregnant with me, and after going through a series of tests and everything through the medical process, she was informed that there was an excessive amount of fluid inside the placenta. Now, for those of you that don't know, that's oftentimes a sign of more serious complications. She was told by every doctor that examined her that her child had a high likelihood of either being born without a heart, being born without a brain, or at the very least with some sort of serious debilitating condition. She was told by her doctors that by all intents and purposes, she should terminate the pregnancy. To make matters even worse, as I mentioned, she was in this country completely alone and isolated from the rest of her family, pursuing something that was of more meaning to her. And like many of us, we don't really know where that's going to take us, but she fought through valiantly. And despite having all this terrible and unsurmounting news from the doctors, she didn't even have the support system from her husband. She never even informed her husband, my dad, that the doctors were telling her that all of this was possible, because he was coming from the mindset that if my child wasn't born a male, I don't even care about it. So from my mom's perspective, if her partner was only willing to engage in the process of fatherhood, if her child was born a male with no sort of debilitating conditions, then that's not really an avenue of support. She knew, on the other hand, that the decision to go through with pregnancy was going to be one that would have a lifetime of repercussions, not necessarily negative or positive. It's a lifetime decision to go through with that when everybody is telling you that you should not. I honestly cannot tell you how or why she pushed through, but she did. She said, you know what, I'm going through with this. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to raise this child on my own if I have to. And the most amazing part of that story to me, and one that I've never really been able to understand, maybe you can help make sense of this all, is the story of actually the birth itself. You see, my grandma did come to the States to be a part of and witness the birth. But again, my mom was in very many ways isolated. She was in labor for 3 days. Now, if you've never given birth before, I don't have any children of my own right now. Hours in labor is a lot. It's grueling, it's painful, it's agonizing, and it's exhausting. My mom was in labor for 3 days because she had a condition known as preeclampsia, excessively high blood pressure, meaning that if she were to try to give birth naturally, or if they were to try to do a C-section, there was once again a high likelihood of complications. In that case, it could lead to either the death of me, the child, or the mother, my mom. And so she stayed in labor for 3 days. No food, very little, if any, water. And all along during those 3 days, she had this one particular nurse that never left her side. She's able to describe the nurse in great detail and corroborates the story with my grandmother, who was there also, of this nurse, dirty blonde hair, about down to her shoulders, old framed glasses, seeing glasses, just a really caring spirit, really caring soul, who was there with my mom for 3 days. Now, at the end of that third day, they told her, my mom, that within the next coming 24 hours, that if nothing changed, then they were going to have to do an emergency C-section. The nurse came into my mom's room and explained to her that, look, Nora, tomorrow actually happens to be my day off, but I've been with you through all of this. I have to see your child born. I have to see this through to the end. And so this nurse came in on her day off to be there by my mom's side. Now, the birth itself had its complications. My mom describes in a lot of detail the feeling that even though she was laying completely horizontal on her back, she had this feeling of just wanting to go to sleep. Just this deep, profound level of exhaustion that she just wanted to close her eyes, just drift to restful sleep, forget about the pain, forget about the situation she's in. She said she could feel as if the bed was tilted down and as if her feet were sliding down towards the ground. And almost that feeling that you get on a roller coaster ride or when going over a speed bump too fast, of your stomach almost just suspended in midair. She said she felt that, as though she was just sliding down the table. And just this darkness carried over her eyes as she was wanting to go to sleep. And here was this particular nurse right by her side, gently slapping her in the face, saying, Nora, no, stay with me, stay here, keeping her awake the entire time. When I was born, my mom didn't even get those moments to hold me right away, because instantly the doctors rushed me away, rushed me to do all sorts of tests and procedures, because they were so certain that I was born without a major organ. And the most miraculous part of that story, yes, my mom is still here with us today, absolutely grateful for that. I am here, absolutely grateful for that. But what's equally amazing to the story is that 5 years later, we went back to Los Angeles, the place where I was born. We went back to the hospital, because my mom wanted to pay this nurse back in some way, and just expressing that gratitude to her, giving her thanks and showing her her son. Because the truth is, like I said, neither one of us would be there if it wasn't for this nurse. So we go back to the hospital. Again, I'm about 5 years old maybe. I don't even really fully recall this experience, but all my family tells me about it. And we're going through, she goes to the front desk, she's asking to speak with this particular nurse, she knows the first and last name, she's describing all her physical features and everything. And the lady at the front desk is going, Nora, I'm sorry, I really don't know who this person is you're speaking of. So we basically took an entire day working up the ladder at the hospital, the chain of command at the hospital, and eventually we get to one of the head administrators who says, look, I've been here working in this hospital for over 20 years. I take great pride in knowing every single employee that's come through this facility, and I'm here to tell you that I do not know a single person that meets that description that you're talking about, whether it's name or physical characteristics. So this nurse that stayed by my mom's side for 3 consecutive days, came in on her day off. There's no record of her. There's no ever record of her being there, no record of her being part of the birth, no record of her even working for the hospital. growing up, we only had one name for the nurse, even though her actual physical name was Catherine. My mom always referred to her as her guardian angel because there was no other explanation to that. Now, I want to be clear, I didn't really grow up in a religious household. It was just a way of honoring, acknowledging this person that went above and beyond the role of anybody's responsibilities. She went above and beyond because she cared, because she connected with my mom. Maybe she identified with her in some way. And the truth is that we all have these opportunities to go above and beyond for someone else, to act selflessly, to serve another person, to help another person. So again, that's my story. If you have any thoughts and ideas of really what to make sense of it, I would love to hear them. Again, I thank you so much for your time, for your willingness to listen, for your willingness to listen with an open heart, and to connect. If you stay tuned within the next 24 hours, you'll be getting an email notification saying that video 2 is available for viewing. Again, in video 2, we're going to go a little bit deeper into how have these stories shaped me into who I am. Particularly early on in childhood, sharing some experiences of how I personally acted on that innate and natural willingness and desire to give back to others